Hey everyone! My name is Eric and I use he, him, his pronouns. I am super excited because it's May, it's when we celebrate Asian American Pacific Islander Month, and I am here to talk to all of you about how we can be more respectful, loving members of our world, especially to our Asian American Pacific Islander friends. I identify as Asian, I'm also Vietnamese. Something that's kept me super busy and occupied during COVID has been reading or listening to my favorite stories, sometimes over and over and over again. But sometimes I notice that the stories that I love so much have moments that hurt my feelings. They represent or they show people like me who are Asian in a way that I don't see white characters being represented. And that's part of what racism is, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Being Asian is my race. Before we start, pause the video so you can get a piece of paper out and a pencil to write down some important definitions and lists. Every time you see definition time, I made this beautiful image for you all. Race. It's the way that we define the part of our identity that has to do with both the color of our skin and the biological family that came before us and their background. It's just part of what makes us us. Now, racism. That's when our race is used against us. When someone is made to feel that they can't do something just because of their race. Like, play with certain people on the playground, or go to a certain restaurant, or live at a certain place. When anyone can't do something, or is even spoken to in a negative way, or even hurt, like physically pushed or hit, because of their race, that's racism. But a racism can occur without anyone even saying a word. Just like someone can hurt your feelings without even calling you a mean name, racism can be present in actions, not just words. Before we move on, feel free to pause and talk with a grown-up. If your race is white, and talk to a grown-up to understand what your race is if you're not sure. How do you think you would feel if you were left out of something just because of how you look by people who don't even know you? Would you feel just upset? Or would you feel frustrated too? It's important to remember that racism exists with any race that isn't white. But the Black community has been affected the most in many damaging ways that our friend Caitlin made a video about, and I'll put that in the comments too. Everyone's journey is different, but it's really important to remember that when we're shielding our Asian friends from racism, that we must always prioritize and include our Black friends and family too. Imagine that your privilege as a white person is a superpower. You can shield other people from racism. So, hearing all of this, you might be asking yourself, how can I help? Or how can I tell my friends how they can help? Well, a great start is learning how to identify racism. Identify. To establish or indicate who or what something is. I'm going to use some of those stories that I talked about earlier to learn how to identify anti-Asian racism. Stories can be anything you watch, listen, or hear that's brought to life by artists, like a TV show, a book, or a musical. Now, my favorite part of stories are the characters. Now, brainstorm with me. Get out another sheet of paper and define these characters or the traits that they have. Another definition. Now, as we get ready to define those traits of characters, make sure we remember, when people create a character, artists are going to bring them to life by determining how they walk, talk, or move. These traits are defining things about these characters, something that we always know that they will do or be. Here, let me give you an explanation. Let's take the title character Junie B. Jones from the popular series. If you know Junie B., write some down with me. What are some ways you would use to define her? She's very outspoken. She's always confident to say what's on her mind. She's very curious. She loves to ask her mom and her teacher, Mr. Scary, lots of questions. She loves to play with her friends. What about the character Matilda from both the book and the movie and the musical? What about her? What traits would we give her? She's very smart. She has special superpowers. She's amazing at reading. She can read super fast, and she can also move stuff with her eyes. I wish I could do that. That's super cool. She's very inspiring. Even though her parents and her principal aren't very nice to her, she always stands up to them. And she's persistent. She tries again until she succeeds. Think about those traits and the ones you wrote down. Are they positive, negative? Traits that you would want to have? Traits that you think you do have? I'd say they're all pretty positive. The 3 listed for each character are just a few that I can think of off the top of my head. There are so many more ways to characterize them. And that is called... definition time. Nuance. Nuance. When someone or something is complicated or complex, has a lot of different things about them. That's what Nuance is. Think of it as being 3D. Junie B isn't just funny, she's a lot of other things too. Let's take a look and compare some of the covers of these books. What do you notice that makes them similar? They're both white. Being white, or any race, is never a bad thing ever. But let's look at some other examples. What about the author Dr. Seuss? Dr. Seuss is one of the most popular children's authors of all time. Consider all the popular characters that he's written. The Cat in the Hat, the Grinch, Thing 1 and Thing 2, the Lorax, my personal favorite. All of these characters are animals or they're made up. They all have great character traits. The cat is clever. Deep down, the Grinch is very caring and full of heart. The Lorax is extremely environmentally friendly. He saves those trees. But the few times Dr. Seuss did include human characters, it was purposeful. Some characters include the boy with a rocket in his pocket, or Sally. All of those characters are white. But there's only been one character that was Asian in all of his books, and it's recently caught people's attention. He didn't have a name, but I'll show it here. Take a second to see the entire page. What are some characters that you see? The magician man with the beard, the mayor with the suit, musician's car, the drivers, and there's a Chinaman. What are some things you noticed about them? Let's find some characteristics that Dr. Seuss gave him. He likes to eat rice, looks like. Has a cone hat on and a robe. He eats with chopsticks. When the only representation of Asian people or Black people or Hispanic people are ones that have character traits that are stereotypes based on the color of the character's skin, that's a form of racism. When I was a kid, kids would always make fun of me and call me fried rice. I never ate fried rice at school, I never talked about it, or even liked it that much at that age. But people called me that because fried rice is an Asian food. How do you think that made me feel? Sometimes fried rice is eaten with chopsticks. So you might be thinking to yourself, how can something be racist if parts of it are true? Well, when a character's only purpose or characteristics is to be part of a stereotype, that's racism. Another definition. A stereotype is an oversimplified image or idea of a particular type of person or thing. Stereotypes are any time when we say all people like this are like this. A stereotype, for example, that has nothing to do with race, is that all people who wear glasses are nerdy and love math. Well, I do wear glasses, and I like math. My friend Ashley wears glasses, and she hates math. Just because it's true for me doesn't mean it is for everyone. And to say that it is, that's a stereotype. What are some Asian stereotypes? Well, for people who are AAPI, I think, what are some stereotypes that you've experienced? All Asians are nerdy and love math. Chopsticks. The names are Chang, Cho, Ching. Let's remember some of the stereotypes from earlier, from the white characters. Do you remember those? Outspoken, curious, playful, etc. What do you notice about the Asian characters versus the white characters? Something I'm noticing is that a lot of the fun and more desirable traits are not assigned to the Asian characters, only the white ones. Why can't any of the Asian characters be all the positive and fun ones too? A lot of the stereotypical traits come from an element of truth. For example, my middle name is actually Kwang, and a lot of my Asian friends really do enjoy cooking rice, as do I. But Asian characters having stereotypical traits, that's not the racist part. It's racist when the only traits we have are that we like to eat rice and that we eat them with chopsticks, and that's all our characters are. We're so much more than those stereotypes. When that's all we're given, that's when it becomes racist. Imagine, what if the Cat in the Hat was Asian? What if he had everything you know of him now, he's charming and clever, but he was Asian, and he happened to eat rice with sticks in part of the book? Would that be racist? I don't think so. There would be lots of other parts to his character. But sadly, there are very few characters that are as well-rounded and well-written as Junie B and Matilda that are also Asian. This type of racism, while of course isn't the same as calling someone a hurtful name or hurting someone physically, is still incredibly hurtful and damaging. By not representing Asian people fully or at all, racism is very alive and well in our world. But why is it important that we stop these types of themes and representations? Because they can harm Asian people. your friends, your teachers, and people you may not even know. I'll share a story with you. When I was about 10 years old, the most popular TV show on TV was called Hannah Montana. It's about a girl who led a double life. She was a normal kid who went to school and hung out with her friends, but on the weekends, she would put on a blonde wig and she would become a nationwide pop star and toured the country. She sang all these great songs. It was my favorite TV show, so I had a wig. And one day for school, we had dress-up day, so I put on my blonde wig. Everyone had all their costumes on. I was super excited. Another kid came up to me, looked at me, very confused, and said, you can't be Hannah Montana because Hannah Montana isn't Asian. How do you think I felt hearing that? Do you think it mattered that I was Asian and just dressing up for a character who just wasn't Asian? It really hurt my feelings. It made me disappointed that someone who I thought was my friend could only see my race. Felt like I couldn't do something just because I was Asian. And why do you think this person might think that way? Well, when the only representation of Asian people are negative or those stereotypes, they become your only understanding of them. But there are some really amazing Asian American Pacific Islander characters that exist. I know a couple. Wanda from the Magic School Bus. She's super tough and she's very creative. She always helps her friends out when they're in need of trouble. Alan from Sesame Street. He's a manager of a store, so he's always helping out his friends too. He's very helpful, I would say. Joshua from Blue's Clues, he's very silly, always has me laughing, he's a lot of fun. And I truly hope that with help from people like you, we can get more characters like these that are Asian and have great nuance to them. Remember that word from before? To tell the world that Asian people are more than chopsticks and rice and dragons. So now that we've talked about how to identify racism in storytelling, what can you do? One helpful thing you could do is, when you're making stories for fun, on the playground, with your friends, with your grown-ups, or just playing pretend, make sure you're always taking turns with the people that you're playing with, especially your Asian friends. Has everyone gotten a chance to be the hero? Has everyone gotten a chance to be a helpful character? Has everyone gotten a chance to be the character that has like the big idea and is leading everyone? When you hear something that you think might be related to someone's race, always tell a grown-up. They'll be able to help you understand if what you heard isn't okay and if it needs to stop. Speaking up, even if you're not sure, is a huge step. And if you're ever watching a story and you think you hear something that might not be okay or is stereotypical or just flat out racism, make sure you share it with a grown-up. They're gonna be able to help you to understand what you just heard. No matter what, remember that addressing racism starts with you. Your voice matters, and we need it to make sure that the world is full of stories that represent us all, equally, fairly, and with nuance. Thanks for listening, and until next time, bye.